Other alien races were currently exploring the remainder of the cosmos before the arrival of humanity. On the planet Samaras, Mills is watching his daughter Naveen play on the beach while informing his wife Alia that he has accepted a 2-year research position. He usually makes short runs, but this time he needs the extra money to pay for Naveen's illness care. Mills then teaches Naveen how to shout with her hands after finally exploring the matter of his journey with her. Mills becomes the pilot in charge of a dispatch that transports a group in cryogenic hibernation sometime later. One day, the transport encounters astonishing shooting star action and is hit many times by meteorite fragments. As the transport begins to split, Mills rushes to the cockpit and transmits a crisis signal, ordering the transport to the next planet. The dispatch splits in two, and as Mills witnesses the inescapable disaster, he remembers almost his daughter lately falling asleep. Mills awake minutes later to hear the computer announce they're at an unknown area. He discovers a piece of metal caught in his stomach and painstakingly removes it to cauterize the wound. He then dons his space traveler suit and begins inspecting the transport to determine the extent of the damage. Noticing that the cryochamber is damaged, Mills removes the dispatch and walks into a pool of water where a perplexing animal swims about him. He also discovers all of his groups dead and is devastated to learn that none of them survived. Mills sends another SOS call after inspecting the entire truck for damage and discovering that the elude case is on the other half that landed somewhere else. Mills, feeling stuck and depressed, clutches his weapon with the intention of completing things, but thoughts of Naveen prevent him from doing so. Then Mills collects all of the tapes containing the messages Naveen has been sending him in order to hear her voice again. Suddenly, the computer detects a functioning capsule nearby. Mills rushes in to investigate and is surprised to find traveler Koa still alive inside, so he immediately pulls her out. On their journey back to the transport, Mills notices a massive paw print on the ground, which suggests that this planet is soil 65 million years ago, implying that Mills is surrounded by dinosaurs. When darkness strikes, the twosome arrives at the transport, and Mills spends the night imagining Naveen demanding to know where he is. The next morning, Mills decides to avoid the fare in order to save the girl. He uses the ship's computer to locate the second half of the vessel, but the computer is unable to find it. Mills then goes outside to inspect the area and discover massive bones that show how dangerous the local animals are. He's been smacked by a hot spring impact that he's never seen before. When he regains consciousness, he notices something shining within the split and understands the other ship half is on a faraway mountain. A quick filter confirms it, and as Mills begins to decide which path to go, he is abruptly assaulted by a little dinosaur. Mills forces the animal to the ground and shoots it with his gun till it's dead after a few battles. There are further commotions in the woods, and when Mills goes to investigate, he finds Koa has cleaned out the ship. The young lady begins running as soon as she sees him, and Mills follows her until they both fall over a cliff and discover a massive but dead dinosaur. Suddenly, the woods begin to tremble, and Mills notices a much larger monster approaching, so he grabs Koa and pulls her back to the ship. While he tends to her wound from the fall, he attempts to elucidate the problem. But it turns out they don't speak the same dialect, and the ship's interpreter isn't working. Mills pours a crimson powder on a tablet and outlines the mountain with the pod to emphasize that they must reach there to escape. Koa meets him and pulls her guardians as she hears the term family. So Mills lies and claims her family is also on the mountain to keep her quiet. A few whiles later, Mills sends out another SOS transmission claiming to have located a survivor, while Koa discovers Naveen's recordings. As she observes them all, it is revealed that during the first year of touring, Naveen's disease worsened and she was admitted to the hospital. During the first several months, her messages were optimistic and thankful to her father. But as time went on, she became irritated with him since he wasn't there for her. When Mills discovers Koa watching the videos, he immediately shuts them off and announces that they're leaving. Mills and Koa begin wandering into the forest once he has enough supplies in his bag, taking care not to attract predators. It's a long and difficult journey, but every time Mills helps Koa when she stumbles or needs anything, they grow closer. Koa notices something reddish in the sky one evening, but makes no comment about it. Koa eventually gets tired of wandering and gathers a few berries from a bush to toss at Mills' fare to annoy him. Mills, irritated, uses his check to illustrate that the berries are dangerous, and instruct to illustrate that the berries are dangerous, and instruct Koa not to tamper with them. Later, a huge beetle lands on Mills' neck, and as he kills it with his hand, his fingers get encased in a sickening, sticky material. Mills attempts to brush it off on a tree, but it's so solid that he falls with a chunk of bark clinging to his fingers, which Koa laughs at. Mills attempts to touch her with his unclean hand to irritate her back, but their plan is thwarted when a little tree falls in front of them. there are some unusual noises coming from behind an edge, and the crew discovers a little dinosaur caught in a pit of the sticky goo. Koa feels terrible for it and rushes to help it, which Mills regards as harmful. Mills closed up since she won't tune in, causing her to finish quicker. The little animal walks away as soon as it is free, but a few steps later it is assaulted by a swarm of predators who quickly kill it. Mills leads Koa into a hiding place so she won't see her partner being consumed, but she notices what's going on and sobs. After the dinosaurs have vanished, the gang continues its journey, pausing at a waterfall to wash and refill their water bottle. Mills is agitated nearly to the point of a stomach wound, but viewing Koa makes him think of Naveen, and that's enough to keep him going. Koa discovers a couple of lovely blossoms and pesters Mills until he lets her put one in his hair. Minutes later, Mills' scanner loses the area of the mountain, so he chooses to climb a tree for a distant better, a much better, a higher, a stronger, and improved a much better see and check the region again. Suddenly he finds a bug on his hand and shakes his arm to induce it off, but the development causes the department to break and Mills falls, disjoining his arm. To speed things up, Mills makes Koa step on his arm for that final thrust, and now that he's much better, he immediately snatches the gun to shoot at the creatures. He, too, tells Koa to run, and when she's far enough away, Mills actuates many little bombs that quickly free half of the dinosaur. The survivors proceed to bounce on Mills, and he shoots them one by one. Unfortunately, the monsters have recently discovered her, and just as they are about to bounce on her, Mills appears and murders them all. However, there is one stowing away that abruptly bounced on Koa from behind and drags her away with its tail. Mills quickly goes after them and alarms the animal away with a shot, so Mills sits down and patiently gives her a few spaces. When it starts to get boring, Mills chooses to shriek like he used to do for Naveen to try to calm Koa down. The trap works, and Koa reacts to her family's claimed strategy of shrieking, eventually accepting to keep going. After parts of strolling, the twosome makes it to a cave where they'll spend the night. Mills sets up a few sensors that will warn them of potential peril and utilizes his scanner to see the sky, which eventually makes. While Mills tries to rest, he can't stop thinking about the day Alia called to tell him Naveen had passed away in the clinic, which causes him to cry. Later in the night, Mills is woken up by the sensors warning him of approaching danger, and while he is initially irritated, he plays the tape because Naveen brings consolation to both of them. The sensors then go insane, and a colossal dinosaur appears outside the cave. Mills shoots it one or two times recently as he and Koa run through a small gap at the back of the cave. The pair quickly starts looking for a way out, unaware that a smaller dinosaur is following them. When Koa notices, she becomes enraged and requests to go again, as she keeps saying family, so Mills tries to tell her they're dead, but she can't get it from him. Thinking that he needs appropriate instruments, Mills has an idea. He employs some bombs to make the contract gap huge enough for a kid, then gives Koa the rest of the bombs to be safe while she explores. Koa slithers through the contract gap and affirms there. Unfortunately, the gap abruptly collapses, and Mills frantically shouts in frustration when he loses contact with Koa. At that moment, Mills hears the dinosaur approaching, so he grabs his weapon and returns to the previous cave, where he employs his scanner to locate the dinosaur. When the animal attacks him from behind, Mills anticipates it and begins shooting it, but the dinosaur hits him and causes him to drop the gun. Mills orders the cave to be evacuated, and when he notices that a massive meteorite is approaching, he uses his scanner to remember that the meteorite he saw some time ago was only a broken piece of a bigger one that will hit in a couple of hours, activating a catastrophic extinction event. He immediately goes looking for Koa and hears her scream when Dinosaur approaches her. He tries to call for Koa, but he gradually sinks until he can't speak anymore. Koa hears Mills' call, so she gathers her metal and holds up for the dinosaur to enter the tree trunk to toss the bombs at it while recently running. With the mammoth dead, Koa can securely reach the sand trap and twist over a tree to help Mills come out of the pit. Mills ties a few ropes around Koa and she begins climbing up first. Then she cleverly ties the rope in an awfully complicated way around trees and shakes so it will hold Mills's weight as he climbs up as well. Moments later, they discover the other half of the dispatch, and Mills instantly turns on the computer to confirm there's a protected vessel coming for them. As she sobs, Mills pulls out a picture of Naveen and explains that he misplaced his girl while on a job, and that he can't allow that to happen again. A wailing Koa hugs Mills as he apologizes for everything. Suddenly, the smaller pieces of shooting stars start falling on soil, so Mills and Koa run to get inside the emergency pod. Koa wakes up first and quickly presses the dispatch button, but the computer clarifies it can't dispatch in this position. As Mills begins to wake up, a massive dinosaur arrives and begins assaulting the pod. Since the weapon fell on the ground, Mills has to risk clearing out the unit to recover it, only to discover it doesn't work. The dinosaurs suddenly surround him, so Koa gets the Naveen tape and plays it on the scanner to create a 3D image of Naveen outside the ship. Mills cries because he believes he'll see his girl one final time before his death, but the dinosaurs are duped and attack the visualization first. Using this distraction, Mills comes out and quickly murders the primary animal, while the other pushes the transport attempting to reach Key. Mills immediately pursues it, and after many well-aimed shots, this dinosaur dies as well. Thanks to the creature's thrust, the case is now in a position to launch. However, before Mills can return, the monster that he had shot back within the cave returns and begins chasing him. With a plan in mind, Mills runs to the fountains and makes the dinosaur walk into a hot blast of water that hits its face. Unfortunately, it does not cause much harm, but at that moment, Koa appears up and stabs the dinosaur in the eye with the bone she prepared earlier. The dinosaur begins flailing and walks on top of another fountain. This time the blast hits it on the stomach and effectively burns it to death. When the unit clears the atmosphere, the autopilot leads it to the assembly site, where a rescue vessel will be waiting for them. Mills shut his eyes and imagines he'll be with Naveen soon while Koa holds his hand to soothe him. Thank you for watching, and remember to subscribe to our channel for more movie recaps. We'll see you in the next episode.